Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today we're going to have a look at this. This is a Sharp MZ-700 personal computer. These came out in Japan, I think, in 1982 and in Europe in 83. So it's about from the same time as the Spectrum and C64 first came out. They were incredibly popular in Japan. They had a bit of a following in Europe, but didn't do very much in Britain. I've had this one probably at least 15 years. It's another of my car boot sale finds. And when I got it, I had no tapes for it, no software for it. I shoved it up in the attic. I mustn't have paid more than £3 or £4 for it, because I never used to pay more than that back then at boot sales for old computers. And it stayed in my attic all that time until last week, when I thought I'd drag it down. Had a bit of a look online to see about software for it, and there's quite a community of enthusiasts for this machine. There's quite a bit of software out there, some very, very interesting games which I don't think you'll have really seen over here. Because they were obviously for the Japanese market, but there's some very, very interesting games out for it. Just trying to think what to say. I haven't really got any information on it. It runs a Z80 processor at I think it's 3.5 megahertz. It has 64K of RAM inside. Very unusual is it doesn't have BASIC as its main built-in operating system. It doesn't actually have an operating system built in it at all. You have to load the OS from disk or tape. When you switch it on, all you get is what's called a line editor, which just basically allows you to start the tape drive, and I presume if you had a disk drive interface for it, it would allow you to boot off disk as well. So a bit like a modern PC in that respect. Or even like the Amiga 1000, I think that was the same when you booted the OS up off a disk. It has, it was quite an expandable system, this really. You could get a base model which had nothing in it, it just had a blank there. You could get this slightly better version, which is the version I've got, which has an inbuilt tape player, or you could get like the top of the range type version, which had a 4-colour plotter built in there. So this is just the single tape version. Because of that legacy, if we have a look around the back, oops. As well as the inbuilt tape deck, we have there a cassette port interface. We have RF video in. We have RF video out. We have composite video out, which is actually in colour, which is fairly unusual, because we have an RGB colour out as well. We've got the I/O bus expansion, which is an edge connector behind that plate. Which one's that? Oh, that's a printer expansion, which again is an edge connector just behind that plate. We have a volume control, which I thought was quite unusual for one of these. Next to that is a reset button, and then we have the power in, which is like you found on most of the old tape players. It's just a little 2-pin power in. Underneath that, which I think is slightly unusual, I've only ever really seen it on some of the Japanese microcomputers like the MSX. I've got a Sony MSX that's the same. That's a grounding pin there. It's actually, you can unscrew it and fit a ground wire into there. It actually has the hole in the top for it to ground everything together, and then we just have our mains power switch. Joysticks, these can have joysticks, but mine just has it says joystick A and B, oh, sorry, joystick 1 and 2, but it just has a little plate over it, and inside there's just two little Molex type connectors, so I presume there's some expansion that you need to get to actually use the joysticks on this thing. I will spin it back around. In fact, we'll plug it in so I can show you what the monitor looks like and what problems I'm having at the moment. So we give it some power there, give it some juice. Now, when I first dug this out of the attic, I did this, set it up on my workbench, connected it up to my bench monitor. Switched it on, it fired up. Then 30 seconds later there was a popping, crackling noise from it. It was still powered up, it was still running, with smoke pluming out from here. Now that was pretty indicative of what had happened to it, and I stripped it down, and I knew what had happened anyway before I even stripped it down with them symptoms. And the overall smell of like burnt toffee. Now there's only one thing in vintage electronics which I found that smells like burnt toffee. It absolutely stinks. The only thing worse I've found from it is a selenium rectifier going off in old valve kit. But what it was these. Well, actually, that one I've changed simply because it's cracked. It's failing, and if I don't change it now, it's going to be the next one to go. But that's the one that went. These two capacitors, they're X2 capacitors, and they're straight across the back of the switch, basically, inside the switch mode power supply. So they go directly across the mains when you apply power. And that one, I've had these go all the time in vintage equipment. That one obviously didn't want to go any longer, and it blew its top. I mean, you can't really complain. This thing's from 1982, 1983, you know, it's over 30-year-old now. And they probably only had a design life of about 5 or 6 years. But anyway, I managed to get two. I actually salvaged two out of a scrap modern ATX power supply. I found two of the right value in one of them, so I whipped them out, stuck them in the power supply, and apart from the fact that it still smells slightly of burning toffee, it's all working and happy again now, and no more magic smokes emitted. So anyway, let's just get them off there. Well, down to the keyboard. Now this, for a vintage computer, has got one of the nicest feeling typing keyboards I've come across. Much better than say on the Spectrums and C64s. I could actually quite happily type on that for some amount of time, and I don't think my fingers would get tired. Yes, I can see it's absolutely filthy. I've not cleaned this thing. I've not done any real service work to it apart from changing them two capacitors. That's all I've done to this system since I've got it. I will just fire it up so you can have a quick look at the monitor program on it. Nice reassuring beep from it, and there we go. That is basically what you get when you start one of these things. Now to load a tape, now this is the problem I've got with this so far. This is how far I've got with it. I know how to load a tape. You press L, and it's basically enter on this, but they marked it up as CR, which I presume is carriage return. Remember, this thing is early home computer. People wouldn't be that familiar with a computer keyboard. They may be familiar with a typewriter. It's very typewriter, the keyboard, actually. So CR, carriage return, is basically your enter key. So we've got L on the screen. If we press carriage return, it goes play, which is press play on tape. Now, when I got this, I didn't get any tapes with it or anything. Like I said, I've been looking around for software for it for ages, and I'm on the web. Have a look at my laptop. I managed to find some MZF files, which you use with the emulators for these on a PC, and I found a piece of software which could convert the MZF file to a WAV file, which I could then record back to a tape and hopefully play on the original hardware. So I've got a tape here, which I've recorded that, which is basic for this system, onto that tape. And I've tried playing it through the inbuilt tape player. Now the tape player seems to be working fine. It fast forwards, rewinds, plays, no problem. But I'm getting absolutely nothing coming through onto the actual computer. I've also tried, because I do this a lot with like my Spectrum and my Dragon 32 and a few other of my micros, is I've got that lead there, which is just a mono to mono, which I can connect to the sound output on my laptop and go straight into the audio cassette in on the back of the computer. Now I've tried doing it that way and I still can't get anything to load on this thing, so I don't know whether I'm doing something wrong or there's actually something wrong with the cassette interface bus on this computer. Maybe that's why it was retired in the first place, we don't know. But if there's anyone out there that knows these computers better than me, could you give me some advice and just comment about what I might be doing wrong, or whether indeed these did have bits of cassette tape issues, whether they're very picky about the tapes. I'd have expected it really to work from the line in, straight from the laptop. Like I say, I've done that a lot of times with my Spectrum and my Dragon 32, and it works every time. Well, that's it for today, I think. I just thought I'd give you a really quick overview of this quite interesting computer. I'll probably do another video as soon as I can actually get it to load something so you can see it doing something. Okay, that's me for today. Thank you and goodbye.